Okay, so welcome everybody. Today is July the 14th, 2023, and we're continuing on. This will be part 2 of the universal law of intent, the blessing and virtue of humility, the second dimension, and the pubic chakra. So all this information is contained within this beautiful bright red pubic chakra, which is right above the root chakra. So let's jump right in. And what I've done is I've set it up for from where we stopped last time. I just went back to this page, or this slide. We'll just repeat this slide and then continue on. So we're working with Lao Tzu and humility. And Lao Tzu is talking about when he walked the earth long ago. Originally, his name was Li, but eventually the people called him Lao Tzu, and it's a name he cherishes because it means old master. And also, as we go, if you have questions, don't hesitate to, can everybody still hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up? Can you still hear me? Yeah, okay. It just said my internet connection is unstable, so hopefully that's not going to be the case. Okay, but if you have questions or I cut out, just let me know, just raise your hand. Okay, so Lao Tzu is a name he cherishes because it means old master. He said he was called to do many things and that he was not simply a philosopher. He was a healer, a teacher, a tender of rice, a father to his own children and to many. He traveled freely, but was often called to serve the emperor in the palace in Sacred City. The emperor would take ill because he had much conflict in his heart. And Lao Tzu would tend to him in his simple ways amidst much pomp and ceremony and luxury. And each time the emperor would ask him to stay within the palace walls. And Lao Tzu said he would very respectfully and humbly say no, because his work was also in the villages and in the fields. He liked to move amongst the people. He saw their life was hard, not without joy, because there was much joy in the simplicity, but it was hard. So things haven't really changed on this planet. Okay. Any questions about that or comments? No. Okay. Okay. There we go. Lao Tzu says life was not as complicated as we have made it, but there were challenges and often challenges of survival. So they would sit by a fire and brew tea and sometimes herbal concoctions of medicines. And he would give them La Ho Chi, which is the hands-on healing, which was given to him to reemerge to help. It was a gift from our brothers and sisters of the Pleiades. He felt it was important to be able to serve the poorest and the richest, the most powerful and the most meek. So in his own way, he was practicing non-judgment. His joy came from serving those in the villages because they would listen, not simply to his words, but to his heart, to truly receive what he had to offer, which was love, for the healing energy of all things is love. He says, how can one not fall down in awe and joy and reverence in the presence of love? So you obviously had reached a very enlightened state to be able to understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. Lao Tzu says humility, not false humility, because false humility is nothing but false pride, but the true understanding that it is a privilege to be able to serve. It is not a duty or responsibility. It is truly an honor. He says this sense of humility and the manner of which he speaks is a unifying factor, not only for humanity, but for all beings, because what it does is it brings us into the balance of equality. If we are truly embracing the virtue of humility, we realize there are none above and there are none below, that all are brothers and sisters, each on a unique and yes, sometimes perilous journey. So I think what he's talking about is none above. At first I thought it was in the higher realms and below, which also there is equality, but also I think he's talking wealth the wealthy and the ones in the villages. So there's no, we're all on the same journey. And sometimes it can be perilous. And then this is really interesting what he says. So he says, what is our job? Oh yes, Darren. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I was just wondering a little bit about his statement there, that it is honor to serve. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Oh, I think he's saying that once you reach a certain state, what you want to do is share. Like, yeah, I know that's what happened to me. Like, it just all of a sudden I was out volunteering. And I think with Steve, like, for instance, with the writing, all you want to do is write more and more and more, because that's your purpose. You're on mute.
Well, also when you experience the love that exists in the higher dimensions, all you want to do is share it. Because in the sharing of it, you bring it up from your heart, you get to experience it as it flows through you. So there's this bias towards sharing. It's love.
There is none when you're in that flow, basically.
There's none what?
No bias. It just shares.
No bias, no, nothing.
Yeah, it just shares itself. And that's what I've found with it's like action. It's the same that happened to me with action, like physical action. I couldn't not be out doing what I'm doing.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think it's the same with your writing. You couldn't not be writing.
Nope.
Yeah. So when I think once you get in that flow, like it's like sending love or whatever you discover that you're most excited about, it's hard not to do that. Yeah. Okay. And okay. So then now Lao Tzu is talking about the perilous journey. Okay. So he says, so what is our job? And he says, it is to go at times into those perilous situations and to diffuse them, because the peril is simply the creation of the human mind. Unless, of course, it is truly that you are wading into a raging, flooding river, in which case I suggest you tie a rope around you. Now, I believe there's metaphors in here, but it's also true. Like with all the climate change, some people, we have to be, very prudent, knowing what to step into and what to stand back. So, yeah, and it's interesting, in the meditation, they brought up cherry lifesavers. And so I think that's like a bit of a metaphor too, because it's like we're almost throwing a ring to people, showing them, if you do this forgiveness work, you'll feel better. Or if you anchor in gratitude, the belief systems are going to dissolve. So, or if we're non-judgment, then we're like a tree, we stand back. So the journey can feel very perilous with the belief systems that are here. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, we're always, and so you can see I've got the red being here. That's the color of humility, and the chakra system in alignment with Gaia. So being just knowing that Gaia is here with us, nature is here with us. We're to be in divine alignment with nature, with Gaia, with the elders around the council fire, with the higher realms. So that divine alignment really helps with the journey here. Okay, and then I brought back the little teaching about ego from the law of sacred purpose. The key is just not to get stuck in ego. And I colored ego pink. So when we love ego, like just come into that love for the ego, and love it some more, it helps bring everything into balance. Ego is just that part of ourselves, a delightful part of the personality that tends to need, especially during this time, during transition, a tremendous amount of reassurance. And when we reassure the ego and our mental and emotional body, that they're not being shut down, then they allow us to operate in the higher vibration. So just, if you can feel those old systems coming up, just to really anchor in love for self, compassion, non-judgment, gratitude, forgiveness, whatever it is that helps to bring it in. And also, just sitting in the old energy, it will eventually dissolve. And, there's just layers and layers to it. But that hands-on healing technique, with the fingers together and over the shoulders, that's a really wonderful way to balance the energy, the masculine and the feminine energy within the physical form as well. So the ego calms down. Yes, Darren.
So is this basically what he's talking about when he was talking about diffusing perilous situations?
I believe, but do you have another idea what he's talking about?
No, this makes sense to me for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, because it's really just the old belief systems that create the peril. I mean, they've created war on the planet. They've created, our system's not working. It's people that create the systems. So when we're in an imbalanced state within, that's how those systems were created. So the more we're in balance inside, the systems have to change. That's really the physics of it, as within, so without. So the more we're balanced inside, it helps everything. Okay. So then he goes on to say we cannot have humility without compassion, because part of what humility is not only putting ourselves above, or just as importantly below others, is putting ourselves with others, not only serving, but ourselves to be served as well. So that's that equal balance within humility, not only serving, but allowing others to serve us. All these blessings and virtues are both energies. It's the giving and the receiving. It's the attachment and the detachment. It's the attraction and the repulsion. So it's the same within the blessings and virtues. He says it is very irritating, is it not, when you have received a gift, be it of healing, of friendship, of support, it matters not what it is, and then you wish to return the favor, the service, not in like kind, but simply as an expression of your gratitude. And the person says to you, oh, no, don't bother. I don't need anything. Lao Tzu says it hurts our heart because we've not been permitted to give back. So the balance is broken. His stick is on the ground, and that is humiliating. And then he went on to talk about how some of the words are opposites of each other. So we have humility, and then we have humiliating. So it's just interesting little part of the English language and some of the other languages too. But he says it is a feeling, it is the thought, it is the emotion. He does not mean to criticize the language, but to speak about how these false concepts we are letting go of have emerged. Humiliation is one of the things we are destroying and eliminating on our new Nova Earth, beautiful Gaia, because it is humiliating when we are not permitted to give. And Lao Tzu says, unless the heart speaking is part of the conversation, then the opportunity for imbalance grows. So when we, when we understand how things work in the higher realms and we're not allowed to talk about it, then the imbalance grows. So I think he's just saying to speak up too. And it's really helpful when others allow us to speak up. Yes, Darren.
Okay, if you're not allowed to serve the person that served you, would the imbalance be negated by serving someone else?
Yeah, you mean just paying it forward?
Yeah.
That's probably a good idea. It's sort of like what happens to love when we send love. If the person says no, then it just goes around the person and goes to the next person praying for it. So
Right. Yeah.
we can always send love. So I would imagine you can always give. Yeah. Yeah, there's no stopping you giving if you want to give. That's a good way of looking at it. But what I've noticed too is, and I think it'll be in the next slide, but he says sometimes you have to be a little bit fierce about it. And Archangel Raphael said the same thing. Like sometimes we have to really stand up and give it a good try, because we're busting walls that are very thick. And sometimes it's a good idea to be firm, and it's good practice, I have to say. But it's always with prudence too. Like, yeah. So you kind of get better and better at knowing, like when I'm standing in the store and people come in and I talk to them, I can pretty much tell who I can give a business card to and who it will be absolutely ridiculous to. So you kind of get a good judge at who's ready to listen. Yeah. Okay. Lao Tzu says there are many times when somebody will say, oh, you do not need to repay me. I just wanted to help you. And it is out of the kindness of their hearts. He says they have need to be reminded gently, of course, and sometimes not so gently, that you have kindness. And I think what he's talking about is you have understandings in your heart as well. And Archangel Raphael called it fierceness. Sometimes, yeah. And I've noticed that in myself. I can tell when you can be kind, but in a really aligned way. He also says we think reciprocal actions need to be of equal value, and that is not so. Lao Tzu would go to the fields to help tend the rice paddies because there's always need, particularly during harvest, for more hands. He would give a healing or talk to a family in distress. Then they would give him some rice and a cup of tea, and he would be so grateful. Were these things of equal value? And he says you cannot measure that because the rice and tea were made with gratitude and the healing was given in love. So how do you try to equate or measure these things? He says that it is a very Western obsession, which unfortunately has spread throughout the world. So yeah, so it's just a matter of being in your heart and sharing, basically. It's funny that brought up something inside me. That's interesting. Thank you. Okay. Any questions about that or any experiences that you've had with that kind of sharing?
So what did it bring up in you?
I think it happens to me a lot where people ask questions and then they're so grateful, they return the love, but it's not, it's something complete. It's what they feel in their heart to share. It's really interesting. It can happen all the time. Yeah, it's these gifts that are flowing back and forth. Then I'm out in the public so much. And the other one that happens is when I do the volunteer work and all the gratitude that just pours back at you. It's like you get more from doing volunteer work than the people that I'm there to serve. The gratitude is just incredible. So yeah, I understand. I really get what he's saying there. Okay. Okay. Lao Tzu says when we come in a place of humility, it is a unifying force. Now, and I put the word compassion above it because look at the colors of compassion. It's the red and it's the green. And then he says humility, which we know is red, and then unifying force is the green. So it's amazing how all these blessings and virtues interact with each other. It is a force that says, I am your brother and sister, and that we are on this journey together. I will serve you because otherwise I am not fulfilling my soul mission, my purpose and mission. and then you will serve me so that you can fulfill your heart's desires. And then we will both go and serve another and another. And so it grows. Yes, Darren, this is it right there. So just keep paying, keep sharing, basically. He said, this is how we very clearly create the new way, the way of change and the way of Christ consciousness and of love. That Jesus Sananda, the master, was very humble and knew exactly what it meant to walk barefoot and dusty and to share whatever food he had, that it has been the same for thousands and tens of thousands of years. And then I think the metaphor for food is, yes, it was food, but it was so much more than that too. Because he was sharing teachings, he was sharing, he was just sharing. Long ago, when Lao Tzu was in Atlantis, they were honored to have the Star brothers and sisters come. And it is then when they brought the Lao Chi, the healing modality of light and movement and sound and symbols, etc. Lao Tzu said they offered in return, humbly and gratefully, their willingness to learn. And it is still the same. We welcome them with open arms. There are many people from the Pleiades here. And Leanne, I think you're one of them. And you're out there doing your beautiful sharing and healing with everyone. Yes, Darren.
I just had a thought here, when you look at the word compassion, the last part of that word is passion, eh?
Yes.
And that really fits in with that unifying force. Huh?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, there's no accident that compassion is made up of passion. And I think it's who talked about that? Saint Germain. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I stuck this in here because this is so interesting. There's an online course that I found about the sex trafficking, and it's like 10 modules, and they're just little videos. And it's how to recognize people that are being sex trafficked. And it says 40% of sex trafficking victims are sold by a family member. So, and we're all not paying attention. So I watched 5 of these little videos this morning, and then I had to get busy finishing up the slideshow, but it's incredible. So I don't know if anybody's interested. You can go to I Am on Watch, and then you can really easily perceive what is it called when you can see the signs for when somebody is sex trafficked, and it can happen as early as a toddler up. So I put it on my Facebook also, if you want to go to my Facebook. And my Facebook is Kathleen Mary. You can find it there. It's I was really thought this was a great idea. Yeah.
It sounds like it's so insidious. I cannot believe it happens that way, that people are willing to give up their I want to say flesh and blood, I guess. I don't know.
I think it's come down through the family pattern. So it's anchored into the family system. I've heard 1 in 3 women suffer from incest in the family, and 1 in 5 males. So I just think it's just indoctrinated into the way of being here on the planet. And we're so unconscious, we don't recognize the signs. But when you watch the little videos, yeah, it's, there are some pretty basic things we can watch for. So I was curious because do the volunteer work so much, and I've never really asked about sex trafficking. So I don't know that much about it, but now that Sound of Freedom is out, and it's really risen up for our awareness, I think it's important if you feel like checking it out. And it's an hour long. It's like 10 videos. Yeah. And they're interesting. It's really well done. Yes, Ken.
I don't know how this is, but it somehow relates to what's going on with the civil law that's going on in Canada. I mean, I just feel like the power has been taken away from everybody, and these few that have it dictates what happens.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. No, it's kind of rampant everywhere. We're under a system that's very hierarchical. And in the higher realms, they work in circles. They have leaders, but the leaders are really good listeners. So there's consensus and democracy whenever a decision is reached, whereas it's more hierarchical here. And yeah, Archangel Gabriel has talked about that quite a bit in some of her messages. Yeah, okay. And that's the same in the family structure. And that's why, yeah, because the women are too afraid to speak up for the children because they must know what's happening. I mean, how do you not know? And then in some of the videos there, the child recognized later because she was getting sold for money that the family was doing better and better. So the money that was being, for her being trafficked, was going to her mother and her father. Like it was, and she said that one of the ones was the firefighters and the pastors and the teachers were all coming to abuse her. And she was trafficked from the age of 2 until 16 or something. And that was just one example. So I don't know. I found it, I didn't realize it was as bad as it is in North America. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insidious.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Okay. Okay. So Lao Tzu said at that time, we felt ourselves sophisticated and advanced. So he's talking about Atlantis here. We were in the beginning stages of what we think of as science and culture. He says he does not mean to diminish his beloved home or one of the homes in which he has lived because it was dear to him. Each person thinks that what they have is very unique and special. And so when it is offered and accepted with gratitude, it makes both parties, whether it is 2 people or 20,000 people, it makes everyone feel unified. It brings the vibration of love. And inside that love with joy and gratitude is acceptance. And acceptance is part of humility as well. Part of what we yearn for, each of us, and he says he knows this because he as human also yearn for it. It is this deep yearning to be accepted for who we are and to be seen and to be known. And in that knowing, to be cherished, to be valued. So again, that's our deep knowing of self-worth. And we can all help each other with that when we bring gratitude. Mhm. Any questions about that?
I got angry when you were talking about that.
Oh, interesting.
Well, I think it's because that it isn't equal. It isn't I mean, it is, but I think I have to go in and every time this happens, I have to go in and forgive my parents.
Yeah.
Because of what's going on.
Okay.
And so I guess this is just a reminder that I need to do that.
Yeah. And then also you reach a level where you realize it's not your parents, it's yourself.
Right, I guess. Yes, you're right. You're right. Good point. Good point.
Yeah. Yeah, because we've all played all these roles. We've been the abuser, we've been the saint. And what basically when we're triggered by something is usually because it's a place inside of us where we feel unforgivable. You know, it's connected somehow to a past life or yeah. So It's good
I-
to be forgiveness of everything, especially self. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Darren.
I think this lack of self-worth is very common among most of humanity, actually, I would say.
Yep. Lack of self-worth and lack of self-love. That's what it's all the old false grids and core issues are based or because of created because of our lack of self-love and lack of self-worth. Yeah. So acceptance brings us into self-worth, into gratitude, into joy, when we can just accept things the way they are. And then you're out of all judgment as well. Just accept our parents the way they were. They did the best they could. And then it's not that we need to accept what's going on in the world, but if we're in the place of not judging it, it'll come into alignment faster because we're not holding it in the old system of not of whatever's created it. Basically, we've let go of all the hatred, the bigotry, the anxiety, the guilt, the shame, the anger, the fear. It's it's been neutralized. So you're sending out love everywhere into everything, not any form of judgment. And it can be easier said than done. Like it's easy to flow love out to, like, say, the war in Russia and Ukraine. But if there's a war at home, like what I'm dealing with, it can be really hard to stay in that place of non-judgment, especially when there's children involved. It's real mastery. Yeah. Okay. Lao Tzu says the starting point is to accept, and it is not to say I accept the reality. Reality anyways. It is to accept the possibility. This is where he always started with his students. Can you accept the possibility of love and your value? Not that it is a given or a proven, but just the possibility. When that crack of the door is open, you are home. And I think what he's talking about is like the doors to the heart. Remember in the meditation, there were French doors that were flung open. So if we can crack open the doors to the heart, the understanding that we are worthy and we are loved, then we're getting into that flow of love, which is so beautiful. And it just reaches into every part of your life. And then at this point, Susie said it's like planting a seed. And Lao Tzu said it's exactly like planting a seed, and you can harvest a whole crop of rice from that one seed. So I haven't quite got what that means yet. Because when I look at one seed, it makes one plant. But the plant can grow, it can be very big. But does one seed make a whole crop of rice? Yes, Steve.
I think he's giving an analogy about planting the seed of opening the heart. If that seed of intention to open the heart succeeds, then you get a whole crop of rice. You get lots of love. You get so much love that what you put into it, which was this much, seems magical because you got this return, right? You're just swept away by this love.
Okay, well,
So
there you
I
go.
think that's what he's saying.
Okay, and there's no wonder that I did it green, which is the color of love.
Yeah, right. No, no accident.
Okay, all right. Okay, so now Ken.
Just think that this whole no, I'm sorry, I'm off balance right now. I'm a little bit angry. And I don't know.
No, it's okay. Just keep talking. It's good. Because
Oh, okay.
we're fine with it.
Well, I guess what happens is when I'm not in control of something, I get angry.
And what do you
I
feel like you're
feel-
not in control of?
Well, for instance, I don't want to bring this up because I want to disparage my wife, but she put herself on mute, and then I got mad because she did that because I wanted to talk. That's all. And it's not her fault. It's my arrogance, I guess.
And I put us on mute because I was coughing and I didn't want to interrupt.
Okay. Okay, that's beautiful. Okay. That's all good.
I was being a jackass when this happened, and I'm sorry, sometimes I just react to stuff, and I don't know, I can forgive myself later, but as it's happening, it's very difficult.
Mhm. Oh yeah, this is the issue here, because we get caught in the old system. It's really easy. That's us getting caught in the perilousness is how Lao Tzu described it. Yeah, Darren.
Well, I've been thinking about planting a seed, and if you plant one seed, then you get a plant, and that plant will produce a whole bunch more seeds, and they will produce more and more. So pretty soon you have a whole crop.
Yep.
Is that what happens with rice? Is that what happens with rice?
I think so. Yeah, I'm not positive, but I think that's how it works. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just think of a maple tree. It produces a lot of maple seeds,
mhm,
and then they blow on the wind.
all right.
So, yeah, and Leanne, yeah.
I think it seems to me like kind of like a metaphor for, what Steve was saying is that, we plant a seed of love, and then that expansion, it multiplies, just like when we meditate and we meditate in a group, that just expands out. And also, the light is more powerful than the dark. So as we plant one seed or two seeds, or it doesn't really matter. I think it's just that whole idea of the expansion that you can have from opening that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not just the words of one seed planting or creating a whole crop of rice. I think it's more of a
metaphor. Yeah. I like to see it when it's actually reproduced in nature.
Right.
and as the metaphor of love. I know that Archangel Gabriel has said that joy is contagious. So like an open heart in one person can help create it in another. Like it's like a chain reaction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like the vibrations, right? If we stay in a higher vibration, then we are affecting more people and more those around us than not planting the one seed, right?
Yeah. So what I've noticed where I go and do the readings, there's actually ley lines that run underneath that whole town, and ley lines, magnetic lines that run under the sacred sites. And they're in Fort Langley. So a lot of people will come and say, I'm feeling so good here. And I will be able to, I say to them, well, it's partly because of the magnetic lines that are in the ground. They're very uplifting. So what happens is it's like a magnetic draw, and then more and more and more people come to feel it, and then they take it away with them. So it's kind of, it's in a way it's contagious, because it's just spreading the energy out from this one center.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then they come back and then to feel it again, and then they go out, but it's like they're anchoring it in more and more and more. Yeah. There's so many ways of looking at that. Thank you for enlightening me, because I looked at that and went, what? Okay. All right, so Lao Tzu did not think of himself as a master, and he said to call someone a master in China at that time was also a sign of respect. It was not that they were saying, oh, you are an ascended master. It was simply a sign of respect and the fact that he was very old, and he laughed when he said that. He did not think of himself as having achieved more than anybody else. He said he had flashes of enlightenment, but he assumed that these insights were given to him so that he could share them. That is humility. It is not the feeling that you are so special that something is given only to you. That is not of truth. And the insights and the understandings, the energy that is given to each of us right now on earth is given to us to share. He says to hoard it, to keep it hidden, to think that somehow you are unique and special and have a special favor with the master. That is arrogance and ego. He says sometimes it is fear. And there were times when he had students both as Wakul and in Atlantis, when they would say, oh, I do not dare to tell my parents about this. They will think I am crazy. And he would say, you do not need to share all the whys and wherefores, the insights. What you need to share is the love. Lao Tzu says he sees our wonderful capacity to love, that we do walk in service. So again, I guess that's the seed, sharing the seed. And it doesn't have to be all the details. You can just go around hugging people. Okay. Lao Tzu said, sometimes there is frustration when we don't understand our service. He suggests we do not waste time waiting, but to find a way to express our love, we are not limited. So yeah, you could just be out being really loving every time you go out to the grocery store, or, you know, it doesn't have to be like a full understanding. He says a sense of rediscovery of our love, which is really our sacred service, is a pleasant gift, like remembering a dear, dear friend who we forgot we had, or meeting somebody that we knew when we were 5 years old and playing in the sandbox, running when we were 30 or 40 or 50, and discovering that the sweetness of that love that we shared then is still there. Now, sometimes it is not just a matter of discovering a friend, it is a matter of discovering and rediscovering us. He says not to spend time trying to mine these memories, but the more that we are in the action of love and in the service to each other, the more the remembering simply emerges because it will feel very familiar. He says that we have that sense of light because the information was already there. It was in our system, as it were, in our computer. And then he says, are they not magnificent inventions? So the computer is a way to share, and that's connected to the second dimension, the internet, who we are, you know, what we came to share. And also that golden energy is when we sit in the golden chambers behind the heart. So we're always flying through that pinprick of light into the golden chambers. That's actually like an internal computer. We've stored a lot of information in there. And the importance of sitting still and doing the heart listening can bring up why we're here, you know, purpose, just more and more deeper and deeper self-worth as well, because that's the golden energy of gratitude for self in those golden chambers. So, and any questions about that? No. Okay. Then he goes on to talk about, I think Susie brought up how do we feel about the murderers, the criminals, the bombers, anyone who is willing to harm another. And Lao Tzu says, first you give gratitude that you have not walked that path in this lifetime. And yes, to understand that the axe murderer or the bomber are those who commit what you know are the most heinous acts. They arrived with the purity of grace in their souls. And purity is that white light. And it did not die. It did not become lost. Was it ignored or covered? Yes. But you see the danger when you judge somebody else You are judging yourself. So you say, well, that person is a murderer and look at what they've done. They are horrible. They need to be punished. What you have immediately done is move out of the balance. The stick is tilting one way. And then what you're doing is you're setting yourself up so that you have to be holier than thou and that you cannot dare misstep, because then you have put yourself in the same categories as those you have judged. And that is very painful. So the non-judgment, connected to compassion, connected to humility, connected to not judging self. So the more we're in that neutrality inside, it's much easier not to judge others. But again, it's not easy to do that. So that's part of our mastery, is practicing that all the time, that place of non-judgment of self and others. I mean, my principal guide said the only mistake we make is in judgment of self or another. We've forgotten our divinity. Well, that's why I put the little angel down here, remembering everybody is divine. We all came. We're all angels. Okay. Lao Tzu says, now the other thing, each journey has many, many twists and turns. And sometimes what I've found is helpful is that you look at what the heinous crime has created. Has there been in any way a positive outcome? You look to that because there is a part of you that does not want to credit the murderer with the positive outcome. You want to take credit for those who have risen to the occasion. But the catalyst for that positive behavior has come from what we judge as negative. So truly it is safer and more rewarding internally to simply never go to judge, to say, I am compassionate because you've lost your way. Now, that does not mean that you take on the burden of that person. It simply means that you send them that wonderful energy of healing, of acceptance, and love, because they have lost their way. And in that, they are not knowing the joy of why they came. And that is terrible. That is a terrible, terrible experience, to lose your way in such a dramatic fashion. So he says, so when we're sending love on Monday nights, we're just sending that love without any kind of judgment to the various situations that we're sending love to. Easier said than done, but it's just practice, practice, practice. I always say, like, being like a tree too is helpful, because a tree doesn't judge. It's practicing being like a tree. Yes, Darren.
Well, I think this just goes to show that we really don't know what's going on behind the scenes at all. You know, we don't know if there's a positive outcome or not. There probably is.
Yeah. Yeah. It brings to mind that story. I think it's an ancient Chinese tale about the man that didn't judge anything. Like, his son broke his leg and he said, well, I don't know if it's good and I don't know if it's bad. And the next day the army recruiter came by and the son couldn't go to war because he had a broken leg. So then so we just don't know. And that story goes on. And the man keeps saying, I don't know if it's good and I don't know if it's bad. So that's another way to look at it. I don't know. I don't know. The situation's out on the planet. Because I do know that we did come to play roles, and SK has said that the ones that have played the roles out of alignment have done a good job. And I mean, it helps us to find our own compassion within ourselves, so that we're practicing that non-judgment. So anyways, all right. So humility is important to unify, because there are many in society that wish to put themselves on pedestals, and that is not real. It does not matter whether it is a leader or a pope or a bishop or a rock star. They are all the same. And then he's saying that the other side was very pleased to see this Pope Francis get rid of his throne, because it tells the people he is one with them. And Susie said, and who needs sparkly red shoes? And Lao Tzu said, as long as they cover your feet. Now, sometimes I had sandals, sometimes I had none. And so any shoes were welcome. And I think that's another metaphor there about the journey. Yes, Steve. Mhm.
The red shoes are worn by all deep state people in conclave.
Mm.
And you might want to inquire into what the red shoes are made from. I'm surprised that Lao Tzu doesn't know that, but maybe he doesn't want to talk about that. When Donald Trump visited the Pope, he asked him to wear his red shoes. And that was the time that he presented the Pope with all the evidence of what was happening in the Vatican, and the Pope conceded. Anyway, so those are the red shoes.
Okay. And when he talks about sandals and any shoes being welcome, I mean, I feel like there's more to that than meets the eye, but I'm not quite sure what that is. Yeah. Anyways. Okay. So then a caller into the radio show said, would you be able to do a healing on what feels like my frail physicality right now? Also, I want to be more of service. Could you see a direction I might better serve? And Lao Tzu said, but you are a teacher and a healer. And of course, I'm always pleasured and honored to give you the healing, but do not forget, my beloved friend, that you have this within you. And he's talking to all of us. We have this within us as well. And as you give it to yourself and even accept it as I amplify you, that you have this willingness to heal, because it does take a certain amount of willingness, divine will, to be in alignment for perfect healing. That is the key, is the willingness and the acceptance of what is being offered. So yes, I gladly will give it to you, but do not undermine your own knowing and your own ability, and to know that you can do this for many, and so forth. Oh, this is planting the seed. Your friends, your family, your neighbors, strangers, do not worry about the who, they will appear. And so, yeah, so we're all teachers and healers, everyone, and just to be in that willingness and acceptance of knowing who you are. And that's, I think he's going back to, sitting in the heart and listening to yourself as well, listening to your guides, and just opening to being in the willingness and the acceptance. And the work we do for other people doesn't have to be in person and hands-on. It can be of an invisible nature with intention. So Susie brought that up. So that's when we're doing the sending love. So, it can be done that way as well. It doesn't have to be done in person. Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so now he's talking about our crystalline bodies and La Ho Chi. So Lao Tzu says the light, which moves at the speed of love, quite literally transforms carbon to crystalline. We have not spoken of this before because it was not yet time, but that is exactly what it does. So from suffering comes divine alignment. Comes balance. We've had thousands of years of suffering. Think of carbon under pressure becomes diamond. And what you're doing with this flow of energy through a physical form, whether you are there or not, but particularly when it is hands-on, is you are creating such a flow of energy that it is assisting the, not only the anchoring, but the transformation of the crystalline body. You can learn, all of you, because I have with my beloved brother Saint Germain, I've been teaching this for years. All you need to do is say yes to be a transmitter of divine quality, of unity with one, unity with all. It is an act of humility. You cannot be a healer and suffer from pride. So, like, even doing what we're doing on Monday nights, we are transmitting divine qualities. We are sending love of unity with one, unity with all. And that helps bring us into that beautiful light being that we are, the crystalline form. And we've been under a lot of pressure for thousands of years. And now it's time to lighten up. Yeah. So it's just a matter of saying yes. Mhm. Okay, any questions about that? Yes, Darren.
Well, it seems like the pressure is just increasing more and more right now.
Okay. How do you mean by that?
Well, just look at what's going on in the world, all the tension and turmoil and chaos that's happening in the world. I think that's building up pressure.
Okay. For people to shift.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
To
Yeah.
become crystalline if they're able to.
Well, we all are. Well, that's why we're here. And it's funny because I never thought of it as pink before, but pink is grace and grace is everything. It's all, so it's like, and that's what's right up the middle, the pink energy, the red, the pink. It's anchored right from below in Gaia all the way at the heart of one, through our heart, through our chakras. Yeah. Okay. Oh yes, and then a caller called in. Can you describe the kingdom of heaven? And Lao Tzu said, the kingdom of heaven is whatever you want it to be. It is your heart. It is your child at rest. It is cities of light. It is the situation in which your full vision is restored so that you can see what has gone before you and what comes after you. It is a place of joy where the angels and archangels, yes, we, the masters, sit and walk and talk with you. But there is not simply, it is as vast as the universe and it is small as a newborn duckling. The ability to experience the kingdom of heaven is within you right now. There is a misunderstanding. So I'm glad, my friend, that you have asked this question. There is a misunderstanding that you cannot experience the kingdom of heaven unless you have died, left your body, but that is not true. This is what ascension is about. It is anchoring heaven on earth. It is anchoring love on earth because that is what heaven is. It is the state of being completely and totally in love and having the freedom of movement to explore, to play, to sing, to go bowling if you wish. I love that. I think it's just laughing a lot. And knowing that those belief systems aren't real. And when you're in that love and joy and peace, that's heaven on earth. I love that. Okay. And this is the end of it. I see you and I know you as completely whole. Now, this is what we learned from the first dimension. The first dimension reality of wholeness, of essence, which is the divine mother energy, of the spectacular idea of each individual self, and that's the self-worth. So he's seeing us as our first dimensional selves. But he says now you're being given some very strong situations in which to clear out in service, in humility, the old ways of violence, of hatred, of greed, and financial greed and control. These are important steps, and understand it is no different than my going to serve the emperor or working in the field. My friends, you do both, and you are richly compensated for both. Perhaps not in the money, but in shifting your planet to a place where the money is not the issue. Because in unity and equality, all are attended to. No one goes hungry and the riches are shared. This is also what Gaia teaches you. She does not just share her riches with some and not with others. She is truly generous with all of you. All you need to do is look, observe, see, accept, receive, and then give back. I humbly give my thanks and give me this opportunity to share with you, to be part of this circle that gathers in unity and service to each other and in service to all. Do not forget my gnarled stick. Do not forget the middle way. Do not forget the balance. It is not what you are aiming to achieve. It is who you are. So he says all of that is within. I think that's, yep, that's it. for that so that we've covered all of the blessing and virtue of humility. I just love how he brings his teachings out. So beautiful. Okay, any questions about that last slide or comments? No. Okay, so let's just slide out of here. Oh, Darren. Okay, hang on.
I just wanted to say that it's so important to know who we truly are.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
That's the purpose of life,
Yeah.
so that God can meet God in a moment of our enlightenment.
Mhm.
To know that we're God, part of God.
Part
As
of God.
soon as you realize that, God meets God.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh, thou I.
Is that the opening of the third eye? But we're
No,
not.
that's, well, it's Spies at Abysto, and I don't know what level of enlightenment that might have been,
Mhm.
probably ascension.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I love it when people do actually have near-death experiences and they come back and all they can rave about is how loving it is on the other side.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's what we're anchoring here. You've come back to tell everybody that's how we're supposed to be acting.
Mhm.
Mhm. So, yeah, it's just being yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a process. There's
Well,
so
that's
many
what the
layers.
Ring of Fire, the Ring of Fire will show us what it's like to be in that higher dimensional love. It'll be a heart opening, it's just temporary, that's all. Whereas ascension is a permanent heart opening.
Mhm.
So,
But I feel like you can access it now. It's just a matter of stepping out, being with the people, or sending love, or, if the old stuff comes up, just doing the forgiveness, or sitting in it, letting it dissolve. I've been working a lot with the law of elimination. Wow, it's so powerful because that's sitting in it and letting it dissolve very quickly.
Hmm.
And it's basically the old systems of hatred, bigotry, limitation, control. They're not for the highest good of the planet, so we can eliminate them, and it can be done pretty quickly. Yeah. And so it's just recognizing the energy of any of those belief systems and then invoking the law of illusion with Sanat Kumara and bringing it down to this, basically to the top of the solar plexus and letting it dissolve right there. Mhm. Yeah, it works really quick. And then you come back and all you can feel is gratitude. It's incredible. The more you do that, it's just, there's so much like, oh, thank you. That was like, you're just over like you're like a wellspring of gratitude. It just kind of bubbles up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you float in that all day long then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then it makes it much easier to navigate perilous situations.
Or non-perilous, whatever.
You can recognize it right away to know to stand back and just bless it, basically. Mm-hmm. Send the perilous situations because you can see what they are, because we haven't lost our discernment at all. And and it's a matter of being a real force of blessing and non-judgment. Mm-hmm. So that everybody can come into this place of blessing everything.
Today I had the privilege of observing nature, in really detail. It came to me. I didn't have to go out see it. It came to me. I mean, the birds came and talked to me. The cat came and rubbed all over me, and hey, it was a beautiful experience.
Wow. Yeah. Jojo and I were talking about a really high state of forgiveness out in the garden today. And a Stellar's jay came and hopped like within about 6 feet of us. And a Stellar's jay is blue and black. And I was like, oh, wow, look at that. And then a green hummingbird came. So yeah,
Wow.
nature can come, like the nature just comes close when you get into that state where you're talking about it. I've witnessed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, Ken.
What did you say? Stellar what?
Oh, it's called a
Jay.
Stellar's jay. It's a bird that's blue, very deep blue with a bit of black. It's
So
like a
it's a-
blue bird.
It's a blue jay or is it something different?
It's very similar. Very,
Oh, okay.
very similar. They're called Stellar's jays in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. It's like we're one, we can be one with nature. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions or comments or anything for this section? No. All right, so let's just wind it down. I'm going to thank you everybody for coming and for people that are watching, and we're going to turn off this recording now.